Welcome to a video that could save your financial future. I am the business guy, the CEO of the Lawyers Limited Law Firm and Asset Protection Planners, and today we're diving into a topic that keeps millionaires up at night: lawsuits. And they're coming. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but in a world where anyone can sue anyone for anything, your wealth is a target. Here's the hook. By the end of this video, you'll learn exactly how the ultra-wealthy shield their assets legally using strategies that have been battle-tested for decades. So stick around because I'm going to share a little-known secret about a place called the Cook Islands that could be your financial fortress. If you want to protect your hard-earned wealth, hit subscribe if you haven't. Let's get started. Let's kick things off with a sobering reality. Lawsuits are everywhere. In fact, in the United States alone, over 40 million lawsuits are filed annually. So that's roughly one lawsuit for every 8 people. In fact, the American Bar Association reports that civil litigation has risen by 20% in the past decade, and the average cost of defending a lawsuit? A cool $1.7 million, according to a 2023 study by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Even if you win, the legal fees can bleed you dry. So here's the kicker. You don't have to do anything wrong to get sued. A slip on your property, a disgruntled employee, or even a jealous competitor can drag you into court. Let me tell you about a client of ours. Let's call him Dr. Mike. Mike was a successful surgeon with a thriving practice, and one day, a patient sued him, claiming malpractice over a routine procedure. In the case, it was baseless. The patient's lawyer saw dollar signs, and Mike spent $250,000 defending himself. And even though he won, the stress and financial hit were devastating to him and his wife. And that's when he came to us at Asset Protection Planners and he said, I never want to feel this vulnerable again. So we made sure that he never did. We set up a Cook Islands trust, put an LLC inside the trust, Swiss bank account in the name of the LLC, personal residence in a land trust, equity stripping line of credit mortgages on all of his properties, and LLCs as the beneficiaries of the land trust on his rental properties, and he said. So we ask one question: why? Why are lawsuits so common? And it's simple. Wealth attracts lawsuits like moths to a flame. The National Center for State Courts found that 60% of civil lawsuits target individuals or businesses with deep pockets, as you can imagine, right? If you're a business owner, a high net worth individual, or just someone with a nice house, you're a magnet for litigation. But here's the good news. You can protect yourself legally, and I'm going to show you how. And before we dive into the nitty-gritty, let's define asset protection. Asset protection is the process of structuring your wealth so it's shielded from creditors, lawsuits, divorce, and other financial threats, legally and ethically. So it's not about hiding money or dodging taxes. It's about building a fortress around your wealth so that even if you're sued, your wealth remains safe. So here's an analogy. Think of your assets like a castle. Without protection, your castle has no walls, no moat, no guards. A lawsuit is like an invading army. It can storm in here and take everything. Asset protection builds those walls, digs that moat, and stations guards to keep the invaders out. And one of the strongest castles in the world? The Cook Islands Trust. Cook Islands are located south of Hawaii, part of New Zealand, one of the strongest, safest, most trusted jurisdictions in the world for asset protection from lawsuits. We also set these trusts up in Belize, that's in Central America, and Nevis, which is in the Caribbean. And at Asset Protection Planners, we've been building these castles for 34 years. I've personally been setting up trusts in the Cook Islands for nearly 30 years, and our firm has established more Cook Islands trusts than any other firm in the world. So we're not here to brag, but we've seen what works and what doesn't, and when it comes to keeping your wealth safe. Now let's talk about the star of the show, the Cook Islands Trust. If you've never heard of the Cook Islands, picture a tiny paradise in the South Pacific. It's about 2,000 miles from New Zealand. It's not just a great spot for a vacation, it's the gold standard for asset protection, and here's why. The Cook Islands Trust is a legal entity that holds your assets, so think cash, investments, and then with the addition of other legal tools, we can also protect real estate and business interests in a way that makes them nearly untouchable. So the Cook Islands has some of the world's strictest asset protection laws, and they're designed specifically to shield your wealth from lawsuits, creditors, or even overzealous ex-spouses. So according to a 2022 report by the International Financial Centers Forum, the Cook Islands handles over 15,000 trusts managing billions of dollars in assets with zero successful challenges against properly structured trusts in over 3 decades. So let me break down why this works. First of all, the Cook Islands doesn't recognize foreign court orders. If a U.S. judge orders your assets seized, the Cook Islands says, sorry, not our problem, because U.S. courts don't have jurisdiction in the Cook Islands. Second, the statute of limitations for challenging a trust is incredibly short, usually 1 to 2 years. If a creditor doesn't file a claim in time, they're out of luck. It also protects assets right away, so you don't need to wait 1 to 2 years before the assets are protected. They're protected immediately. It's just that the courts won't entertain a claim against your assets after that time. And third, the burden of proof is on the creditor. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you set up the trust with the intent to defraud them specifically, not any creditor but them. So good luck with that. Now here's a real-world example. In 1999, a U.S. businessman named Andrew faced a $10 million lawsuit, and this is from a former business partner. Andrew had set up a Cook Islands trust with us a few years earlier. When the lawsuit hit, the plaintiff's lawyers tried to go after his assets. They failed. The Cook Islands court dismissed their claims because they couldn't meet the legal requirements. Andrew's wealth stayed safe, and he didn't lose a penny. That's the power of the Cook Islands Trust. And here's how we supercharge the Cook Islands Trust with an LLC. So at Asset Protection Planners, we take the Cook Islands Trust to the next level by pairing it with the Cook Islands LLC. So here's how it works. We set up a Cook Islands Trust, and then we create a Cook Islands LLC and put it inside the trust, and the LLC holds the bank accounts, investment accounts, etc. Our favorite banks are in Switzerland. So you, the client, are named as the manager of the LLC here, giving you control over the assets. Think investing, spending, or managing your portfolio. But here's the genius part. If you're under legal attack, when this happens, our licensed bonded trustee company law firm in the Cook Islands can step in as manager of the LLC, and this creates an extra layer of protection. So the trustee company protects you and your assets are shielded from the lawsuit. It's like locking your castle gates when the invaders arrive. So once the threat passes, you're back in the driver's seat. It's seamless, legal, and incredibly effective. Let me share a story about a client named Sarah. Love my artistry there. She owned multiple properties. She was a real estate investor, and she was sued by a tenant who claimed a slip and fall injury. The tenant's lawyer demanded $2 million. Sarah had a Cook Islands trust with an LLC set up by us. We recorded equity stripping mortgages against each of the property. All the properties were held in land trust. We set up LLCs as the beneficiaries of each land trust, and the equity stripping arrangement was such that we turned these equity stripping liens into actual mortgages. She put the proceeds from the mortgages in her offshore trust, and when the lawsuit hit, our trustee stepped in, and the assets in the LLC were untouchable. The plaintiff eventually dropped the case because they couldn't access Sarah's wealth. And today, Sarah is still investing, stress-free, knowing her assets are protected. Now, this structure isn't just for billionaires. Whether you're a doctor, a business owner, or a retiree with a healthy nest egg, this setup can work for you. In fact, at AssetProtectionPlanners.com, we tailor each trust to your individual needs, ensuring maximum protection without the complexity. Okay, now let's bust some myths about asset protection, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. Myth number 1 is asset protection is only for the ultra rich. Not true. If you have, let's say, $500K or more in assets, whether it's a business, investments, or real estate, you're a target. A 2023 study by the WealthX Institute found that 70% of individuals with a net worth of $1 million or more have some form of asset protection in place. Myth number 2, people question the legality. Asset protection is shady or illegal, they say. Nope. A Cook Islands Trust is 100% legal when set up properly. It's like wearing a seatbelt. You're not breaking the law by preparing for an accident. You're just preventing injury, in this case, financial industry. Myth number 3, I don't need asset protection because I have insurance. Well, insurance is great, but it's not enough. The Insurance Information Institute reports that 40% of liability claims exceed policy limits, leaving you on the hook for the rest. And there's so many things that insurance doesn't cover. It doesn't cover divorce. It doesn't cover things if somebody falsely accuses you of fraud, and so on, which is a common ploy that plaintiffs pull to try to intimidate you and get their hands into your pocket. So here's an anecdote. A client named Tom, a small business owner, thought his liability insurance was bulletproof. Then a customer sued him for $3 million over a defective product. His insurance covered $1 million, but the rest came out of his personal assets. Tom wished he'd called us sooner. Don't make the same mistake. So how do you get started? Here are the 5 actionable steps to shield your assets legally. Step number 1 is to assess your risk. Look at your net worth, your business, and your lifestyle. Are you in a high-risk profession like medicine or real estate? Do you own properties? If so, you're a target. Step number 2, consult a professional. Keep in mind you have professionals going after your wealth. You need a professional to protect your wealth. Otherwise, they will find holes in your asset protection structure. At Asset Protection Planners, we have attorneys on staff. We offer free consultations to evaluate your needs. If you're serious and not just curious, visit assetprotectionplanners.com. You can schedule one online. Step number 3, consider a Cook Islands trust with an LLC. It's really the gold standard for asset protection. We've set up thousands of them, and we've seen them protect the client's assets every single time. Step number 4, act before trouble strikes. The law frowns on transferring assets after a lawsuit is filed. That's called fraudulent transfer. There's still ways to protect you, but it gets more costly and it limits our options. A 2022 study by the American Bankruptcy Institute found that 80% of asset protection plans fail when set up after a lawsuit begins. Timing is everything, and offshore is pretty much one of the only ways that can protect you after the fact. Step number 5, stay diversified. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. You can spread your assets across different accounts, jurisdictions, and investments. For example, a Cook Islands trust can hold offshore bank accounts, real estate, even cryptocurrency with real estate with the other tools, creating multiple layers of protection. So we use the Cook Islands Trust, we use the Cook Islands LLC, we set up a bank account in Switzerland because they have the strongest, safest banks, so we use the best jurisdiction for whatever the need is. For example, you don't put Mercedes tires on your Mercedes car, you might use Continental tires, for example. And here's a case study. John, a tech entrepreneur, came to us in 2020. He had $5 million in assets and he is worried about a potential lawsuit from a competitor. So we set up a Cook Islands Trust. We put a Cook Islands LLC inside of the trust, and we made John the manager of that LLC. 2 years later, a competitor sued for $8 million. The lawsuit went nowhere because John's assets were untouchable. And today, John's wealth is safe and he's focused on growing his business, not fighting the battle over his shoulder in court. Let's talk about what happens if you do nothing. The cost of inaction. It's really catastrophic. We've seen it. According to a 2024 report by the National Association of Realtors, 25% of real estate investors faced at least one lawsuit in their career with an average settlement of $500,000. For doctors, it's even worse. The American Medical Association says that 50% of physicians will be sued by age 55 with malpractice awards averaging $3.5 million. In fact, I'll never forget a client named Lisa. She was a restaurateur. Lisa was sued by a customer who claimed food poisoning. Now, the case, it was frivolous, but Lisa hadn't protected her assets. She lost her restaurant, her savings, and basically her peace of mind. So when she came to us, we helped her rebuild, but she said, if I had known about asset protection sooner, I'd still have my business. Don't let that be you. Here's a subtle bit of humor. Ignoring asset protection is like skydiving without a parachute. Sure, the view is great on the way down, but the landing, not so much. Protect your wealth now, and you'll sleep better at night, believe me. So you might be wondering, why should I trust asset protection planners? So here's why. For 34 years, that's how long I've been in the business, we've been in the trenches helping thousands of clients protect their wealth. We've set up more Cook Islands trusts than any firm in the world. That's the strongest tool in the world. I've been working with the Cook Islands for nearly 3 decades. Our team includes licensed bonded trustees and attorneys who know the ins and outs of international law. And we're not just about trust, we're about peace of mind. At Asset Protection Planners, we have customer service people who walk you through the paperwork step by step by step, from initial consultation to the final setup. We don't use cookie cutter solutions. Each plan is customized to your goals. So whether you're protecting $1 million portfolio or a $100 million empire, we've got you covered. Here's a final story. Mark, a retired CEO, came to us in 2023. He had heard about a friend losing everything in a lawsuit and he wanted to avoid the same fate. We set up a Cook Islands trust with an LLC inside of it, moved his assets offshore in the LLC, gave him control as the LLC manager, and then years later, a former colleague tried to sue him over a failed business deal. The lawsuit fizzled because Mark's assets were out of reach. So today, Mark's enjoying retirement, knowing his wealth is secure. And let me tell you, it really feels good inside knowing that we give people that kind of peace of mind. So we've covered a lot today, from the lawsuit epidemic to the unbeatable protection of a Cook Islands trust. So here's the bottom line. Lawsuits are coming, but you don't have to be a victim. With the right strategy, you can shield your wealth legally and live with confidence and peace of mind. So what's your next step? Head over to assetprotectionplanners.com for a free consultation. Our team will assess your situation and recommend a plan that fits your needs. You can also just get a lot of free information. Even if you don't want to talk to somebody, you can peruse our website. So don't wait until a lawsuit lands on your front door. Act now. And if you found this video helpful, please hit that like button, share it with somebody who needs to hear this, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We have a lot more tips on protecting your wealth. We're posting new videos every week to help you stay ahead of the game. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.